Hi guys, it's Mac and we're back with another art project today. Today we're going to be looking at printmaking. So as you can see below, this is the image that we have created, and we've actually created this image using only a few supplies. So you need some foam sheets like this. They're quite thin, which makes them easy to cut. You're going to need some sort of printmaking ink. I've used this one here from Hobbycraft, but any store that sells a type of lino print will be absolutely fine. You'll need a biro, and this is to draw into the foam to make an indent. Any biro is fine, but actually the cheaper the better. And you're also going to need a roller to roll your ink out to make sure it's even and we get a really nice dark print. So what do we actually need to do to get started? To begin with, you need to figure out what kind of design that you'd like to do. There's a few elements going on in this piece of art that we've made, so I'm going to explain it step by step. The first thing I did was actually make the texture for this pot. So this pot is made up of lots of different coloured acrylic paint that I've used a squeegee for to be able to pull the ink down. So I'm going to show you how I've done this now. So my first step is this. So I'm just going to get myself a piece of paper. It doesn't matter what type of paper you use, but I'm just going to stick this down to my bench or wherever I'm working, just so it stays still. I'm going to use a piece of paper on each of the sides because I don't want this to move, because we're going to have to put a bit of pressure on this to be able to get the effect that we want. Okay, so once we've done that, you need to get yourself some paint. I'm just going to roll my sleeves up. So you can pick the colours that you want to use. I'm just going to pick a few different colours here. I like to put something dark as a contrast into my paintings. So I'm just going to put some blobs of this on my page, and I'm going to put them at the top of my page. Don't be worried if there's gaps when you do this, because it's okay that the other colours show through, and you can space them out slightly as well. My paints are running out. Just going to get some lime green and put it like this. So the reason I showed you this squeegee earlier is because this is what we're going to use to pull our paint down. So in my example, the paint was all over, all swirly, so it depends on how you pull your paint down. You can pull it straight or you can pull it down. If you don't have something like this at home, you can just get a bit of cardboard, as long as it's fairly strong. As long as it's flat edge, like something like a ruler, it's going to work. But I have a squeegee in this case, which just makes it a bit easier. So we're going to start at the top, and we're just going to move our paint around to form a pattern that we like. So I'm just going to go for a simple down one like that, and just make sure that you've got somewhere to put this. It's not going to make a mess. So once we've done that, we need to let this dry. So that's why we do it first. So I'm going to peel this up off my page. And I'm going to let it dry while we're doing the next step. Okay, so now your paint should be drying. Maybe put it in front of a radiator, or if you're in a bit of a rush or impatient, you could get a hairdryer and quickly blow over the paint. It should dry in no time. So the next step is actually to make the leaves of our plant. So we're going to use the foam that I spoke about earlier. So the foam I'm using is really thin. You can see it's almost like a paper thickness. And we're going to use this to design the pattern onto the sheet. So what you want to do is get an idea of the leaf shape you want to do. So I'm just going to draw a simple leaf pattern. So you will find that your biro won't like the foam, and it will keep indenting it without actually any of the ink from the pen coming through. If it does that, don't worry, because the main point is that the pattern comes through. So hopefully you can see the indentations that I've got. So please don't worry too much about the outside, because we're actually going to cut this out. So the main bit we're interested in is the detail inside this leaf. So I'm going to push down through the centre, and then I'm going to draw lots of dots. See, my pen ink's coming back now. Lots of dots into my leaf, which I'm just going to whiz through now. Okay, so once we've got a design onto our foam, what you want to do is cut around the outline of the artwork that you've done. So grab yourself a pair of scissors and just cut round this. Okay, so you should be left with something that looks a bit like this. What I would do is once you've cut it out, I would just go over the indentations that you've made in the leaf, and how I kind of look to see if it's deep enough or not is actually flip it backwards, and then hopefully you can see on the camera there that the indentations have come through on the other side. That's what you're looking for. So just make sure they come through on the other side, and I'll show you how to ink it up in a minute, and then you can see when you roll it out if it's deep enough or not. Okay, so once you've got your first one cut out, you're going to need to repeat the pattern a few more times. So what I would do is I would do another few leaves and try and make them a variation of different shapes and sizes. It's just going to make the plant a bit more interesting when you come to print it. Okay, so we've got our leaves here and we need to work out where we want to place them on our sheet of paper. So what I would do is collect all your leaves up. Get yourself a sheet of paper, which I've just got here. I'm going to pull one over. Ooh. So grab yourself a sheet of paper. And then what you want to do is you need to work out where you're going to place your leaves. So obviously these are going to be backwards, so you need to flip the leaf and work out where you want to put all of them. So the blue ones that I've got here, they're ones I did in a previous experiment, so I've got a few more, but it really doesn't take long for you to be able to make some more. So have a play around, see what leaves you want to use. You might not want to use all of them, so I'm going to use these ones here. So you do need to just make sure that you have got enough room for the pot that we're going to cut out at the end, so just make sure there's a substantial space here for your plant pot. So next step, what we need to do now is we need to ink up our foam sheets, and that is going to allow us to print and transfer the design onto the sheet of paper. Okay, so I've got my ink board ready and I've rolled out my ink. I've done this by putting a few dots on the top and just rolling back and forward with my roller. Don't use loads of ink, because actually if you use too much and roll it onto your design, you're not going to get as much detail through because it will bleed everywhere. And it sounds a bit gruesome, they will bleed, but it just means it smudges and it won't get hold of all that detail. So just roll your roller back and forward until you've got a smooth surface, and until you can't see any gaps on your roller. That's when you know you're good to go. So we're going to put that to one side. Okay, once we've done that, we need to grab one of our foam pieces back from the other side of my table. So I'm going to use my foam and my roller, and I'm just going to roll over. It's a bit fiddly until that's covered. So as you can see, as I roll that over, you can see the details that it's not picked up. It does get a bit messy, I'm afraid, so just be prepared for that. Okay, once you've done that, let's try and print our first print on here. So I should have put something underneath there because I'm just going to make a massive mess now. But just grab one of your leaves, I'm just going to turn it, and I'm going to place this leaf here. So I'm just going to push it down, and I'm just going to push it with my fingers until I think that the transfer has all gone through to the piece of paper. So these foam sheets you can actually use over and over again. You can wash them in the sink and they dry really quickly. So they're not just a one use item, you can use them over and over again, which is nice because if you wanted to make some like Christmas cards or birthday cards or do some art prints, you can use them over and over again. You could do a little limited edition one. So I feel like that feels pretty stuck down. So I'm just going to lift it up, pull it back, and as you can see, we've got a lovely transfer there with the sheet, and you can see still a bit of black on there, but that's fine, that will wash off. So I'm just going to repeat the process again for all the other leaves, and then we'll come back and we will have a look to see how we can finish this project off. Okay, so now we've printed all of our pieces, so we just need to let this dry. I'm actually going to blast mine with a hairdryer so we can move on to the next step. Okay, I'm back and I have 2 dry pieces of paper here. I have one with my leaves on and I have one with my paint on. So what we need to do now is we need to have a look to see what type of pot we want to put on our design here. So I'm just going to take this little bit of tape off from earlier, and I'm going to have a look at my pattern. So yours might be completely different to mine, and that's the beauty of it. I'm just going to put my leaves to one side for the moment, just so I can focus on this. So once we've got our lovely painted background here, we're going to need to design a little pot. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to get my scissors, and I'm actually going to go along with this shape that I've made. So I'm going to do a little swirly whirly pattern on my pot. And don't worry too much if you've got to cut little bits more off as you go, because we're not going to know how it's going to fit until we get it on the piece of paper. So I'm just going to cut that to one side. And now we're just going to have a look to see how much room we have on our sheet of paper. So I'm going to bring that back in, and I'm going to have a look. So there's 2 things you can do. We could stick this down and we could cut it to where the thing is, or we could be clever and we could have a little look where that is and we could cut around it. What I'm going to do for ease is I'm just going to cut this today so that you can see where it ends. Okay, so we've got our cut-out painting, and we're going to use this to have a look at the vase. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to put this on the sheet. So we have this leaf here. So the reason I've left that leaf here is to just give it a bit more interest. So I'm going to grab my pen, I'm just going to give it a little scribble, and I'm actually going to trace around where I think this leaf goes, just so I can cut around the vase. So where the leaf goes, I'm just going to grab that, and I'm going to cut where I think the leaf goes. And I'm going to save that little triangle. So I'm going to put that there on my leaf. And then when I've got my little triangle, I'm going to put my triangle there. So it looks like the leaf is on top of the vase. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get some double-sided sticky paper and I'm going to stick this down. I'm using double-sided tape, but you can use Pritt stick, PVA glue, whatever's sticky, and we'll stick it down. Okay, so I've got my leaves and they're now stuck into the vase. So what I'm going to do is we've got to add in some of the stems of our leaves, and that's going to complete the plant. So it's up to you what you use. You can use colouring pencils, you can use felt tips, whatever you've got in your house. So I'm going to use something called a Posca pen, which is a paint pen, and we're going to use a few different colours. So I'm going to find my Posca pen in my handy dandy craft box behind. So I've got a few colours here. I am going to start with a black because that is the colour of our leaves. We could give it a shake. You might have to push it down a few times. So once I've done this, I'm going to start at the base of the leaf. So where that starts there, I'm going to pull that down into the centre of my leaf. It's going to go into a few of the other leaves. So that's one. That's two. I'm just going to whiz through and just finish the rest off quickly. Okay, so you can leave it like this or you can colour it in. I'm actually going to colour in the stems just so it's a bit more bold. So I'm just going to use black in this instance. Okay, and you can leave it like this. This looks great on its own, or you can add some more detail. So if you remember my example at the start, this one had obviously a different pot and we'd use some different colours going through the stems. That's completely up to you if you do that. I just thought I'd show you a version where we've used just the black paint and just used the stems like that. It's more simplistic, but obviously we've got a different pot. With this one here, I used a lot more paint and we did loads and loads of different swirls. So it's completely up to you what effect you want to go with. I've done a simple one to start with, but you can obviously practice more and find the one that you like to do the most. You can obviously leave this as it is, or you can add more detail in. You could add more details into the spots of your leaves, or you could leave them as they are. It's completely up to you. Okay, and just to give it a little bit more dimension, I'm going to add a little shadow at the bottom of my vase. So I'm just going to do that by coming out from the bottom of the vase here, and I'm just going to do a circle, and I'm just going to bring it out further this way. So once I've done that, I'm just going to colour this in. Try not to get any black paint on my vase. And that was the first project we've done together on this channel. If you would like to follow me, please like and subscribe to this video, and please keep tuned for more videos in the future. As you can see, they make really effective pieces of art, and I'm hoping that you learned something new today. Please, please, please let me know in the comments below if there's anything that you would like me to do in the next video. Thanks guys, bye!